Ramalan. Welcome to Midweek Crisis. It's a rapid fire show covering several hot topics and issues the mainstream media usually avoid. It's produced by Leezee the Bunny, the person who really makes this show snap, crackle and pop, and presented by me, Yvonne Ridley. So, Macmillan Cancer Support does a fine job. No one's disputing that, as it helps cancer victims and their families come to terms with this vile disease. But the latest advert has me absolutely fuming, as it highlights Cervical Cancer Prevention Week and the value of smear tests. I mean, great message, but in its drive for political correctness, it has erased the term women and replaced it instead with people. Just as the Scottish government wiped out the phrase pregnant mothers and inserted instead pregnant people in its health literature. I mean, this is an absolute nonsense. It's time, long overdue. These dreadful misogynists who initiate this literature, who hate women, were brought to book. Women have vaginas, men don't. Women have a cervix, men don't. Women get pregnant, men don't, unless, in the very rare exception, a woman decides to transition mid-pregnancy. So there you are. Sex does matter, and so do women. There's a mob out there that has been targeting the much-loved and respected author JK Rowling of Harry Potter fame for having the cheek to say men are not women. She is basing her beliefs on biological sex, and yet there's been a global witch hunt of Rowling transgender activists. No, I'm not saying trans people. Quite frankly, many trans people I know are absolutely fed up to the back teeth of these trans activists who are driven by nothing more than blind hatred, logic or reason. God forbid we women should have rights. What we are seeing, though, is one of the most toxic aspects of identity politics and its creation of hierarchies in terms of oppression, injustice, and inequality. I'll say this once: human rights are for everyone. The playing field should be level. Erasing women from health issues is wrong and discriminatory of women. Let's hear it for the working classes. It appears there are elements in Britain's Labour Party, snooty, sneering graduates that now dominate the party, who want to turn us all into helpless victims, forever dependent on handouts and basic income. They are part of the Twitterati who turned venomously against Molly May Hague, an influencer and reality TV show contestant, all because she espoused hard work. She said she had worked extremely hard to taste the fruits of success and that others could do the same. Okay. Her narrative may have been a bit simplistic. We can't all be astronauts, influencers, or crypto millionaires. But what do you expect from a Love Island contestant? The reality TV show is hardly on a level with Mastermind, a university challenge. But for the record, and for the ears of those elite left-wing intellectuals who inhabit the Westminster bubble, working class people are not afraid of hard work and would like the chance to show it. Comparing Molly May to Margaret Thatcher was preposterous. Thatcher killed off the coal industry, and shipbuilding industries. She laid waste to entire communities. I saw the carnage with my own eyes in Concert, where I was born, and on nearby Tyneside and Wearside, where the shipbuilding industries have virtually sunk without trace. Yes, I still regard myself as working class, even though I'm living a better life these days. But that coal, iron and steel are still coursing through my veins as a fact. I know who I am, and I will always stand with the working classes. Thatcher made people become dependent on welfare, and now this latest set of Tories is trying to take it away, forcing millions into poverty and hardship, and those who do find work are barely existing on low wages. These smug, sneering little sods who think they understand the working classes need to realise we need jobs, higher wages and a better standard of living. Hard work, which Molly May talked about, has never been the issue, but the problem lies with the boss class, not reality TV stars. At the time of writing this, close to 150,000 people had signed a petition to save the BBC. In the same period of time, a few weeks ago, more than 1 million signed a petition after the Queen said she was going to give a knighthood to ex-Prime Minister Tony Blair. So why aren't people flocking in the same way to save the BBC? Well, I'll tell you why. It's down to trust. And folk no longer trust the service. Yes, it produces great quality drama, but the news side no longer provides that gold standard of journalism we all used to aspire to. The coverage of the BBC overseas is woefully inadequate, and some reporting is still anchored in the bad old days of empire and British colonialism. It has become infected with political right-wing bias, and since I moved to Scotland, it is even more obvious than ever, especially when it comes to Scottish political coverage. The BBC can barely disguise its loathing of the working classes, and especially those who dare to aspire to independence. It's palpable. People are switching off, and the answer why will become immediately obvious if the BBC has to rely on a paywall for funding instead of TV viewers shelling out £159 a year. I can't imagine many will climb a wall for information or news coverage, although quality entertainment will have no such problems. The final licence fee will run out in 2027. By that time, let's hope Scotland is independent, and if it so wants, launches its own state broadcaster. So I'm no fan of Moscow's chest-thumping Mr. Macho Vladimir Putin, but the way in which the mainstream media in the West is portraying the crisis in Ukraine is extremely misleading. Back in December, Moscow said it would seek legally formulated guarantees of security from the United States and its allies that would end NATO military activity in Eastern Europe, as well as military support for the Ukraine. In a flash, the media invoked memories of the Cold War, portrayed Russia as the aggressor, and hailed US President Joe Biden for trying to bring calm of de-escalation. If Biden was serious, he wouldn't have then said in the same breath that he would continue to tool up the Ukraine. In London, Tobias Ellwood, chairman of the Commons Defence Committee, was a little more definitive. I am afraid an invasion by Russian forces is inevitable and imminent. Russians are not all vodka-swilling violent psychos portrayed in the mainstream media. Most of them are actually very sensitive, especially when they feel their borders. Putin wants jaw. We should listen. That's the end of Midweek Crisis. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Any suggestions, contact us, what you'd like to see. Fill out the comments below, and it's been great sharing this with you.